Welcome to The Business Fighter with Henry Penix. Henry has been the CEO, founder, and consultant to hundreds of companies worldwide. He retired a multimillionaire, financially independent at the age of 35. Henry grew up a preacher's son and was thrown in jail 3 times for various altercations. He knows what it means to come from nothing and have to fight his way to the top. Henry is the business fighter who will teach you strategic skills for winning in business and in life. Don't just spectate, participate. It's time to get in the ring.
Hey, this is Henry Penix, the business fighter, coming to you with another one of our podcasts. I've got an amazing woman to bring to you today. She's been through a lot of life herself. She's a specialist in attacking trauma. Anything that has caused trauma in your life, she asks those deep, dark questions to kind of pull it out, and not just for the sake of pulling it out, but then to set you free from it. She's lived it by experience. She's done it many times, very successful at it. And I'm so happy to welcome Amy Van Slambrook to our Dr. Amy to our show. Amy, nice to have you.
Thank you so much, Henry. It's really an honor to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. We were sharing a little bit before how we're both PKs. For those of you that don't know what a PK is, it's a preacher's kid. So it's either like my sister was, the most refined, do nothing type person, which is fine, or it's the most rebellious, get into every kind of trouble that you can, which was a little more what I grew through. I'm still not there, but I grew through. Amy, which one were you?
I'm a little bit of a combination. I had definitely my decade plus of not being the idyllic PK, shall we say, or I guess it's our training ground, right, Henry? It gave us a lot more color and depth and just an appreciation for grace, that's for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's well said. Grace has saved my life, and that's a whole other episode, which we'll get into later, but Grace has saved my life. So we're so happy to have you. Let me know kind of, and let our listeners know how you got started in helping to deal with people's trauma in particular, because you were telling me you go to those deep, dark places, get it out, then get people free from it. And it's because you lived it. So can you give me a little bit of color from your background of what kind of qualifies you to walk other people through this?
Absolutely. I mean, formally, I have a master's degree in psychotherapy and I'm licensed. I'm also a certified life coach and, have 15 plus years of experience in that, in addition to a 20 plus year corporate career. But really the groundwork was laid for me, Henry, back when I was about 9, and God gave me a real vision for speaking to large audiences. And I didn't clearly know what the message for that was, but I had already encountered trauma by that time in my life. This fighting spirit. My favorite Halloween costume when I was little was a pirate, and I was 5 when that happened, which ironically is when I first encountered trauma outside of my home. And ever since then, that fighting spirit has been within me. And so my life has been sort of wave after wave of the trauma. And I never thought about, well, why me? Because I was always taught that whatever happens, it's going to be used to strengthen us, and it's going to be used to help other people. And my parents really continue to model that. So as those complex traumas built, and I grew more professionally and really understood what that call was, that burn in my heart, that's what always motivated me. Even though I started these businesses, I was always working for myself. I knew that eventually I wanted to be in a more formal role with people as a therapist, and then eventually to really work in a much more global situation, so that I could just help people know that it doesn't have to shroud who they really are. That original beautiful spirit inside of them is still there, which is totally what happened for me. And I went decades of my own trauma healing with some amazing therapists and helpers, and just, there's no way out but through.
I love that perspective, and I love where you come from, because I use the analogy when I'm on a flight and the plane starts getting bumpy and the weather is sort of a little nasty outside, I want to look up and see a little bit of gray hair on that pilot. Not that you have gray hair, but you have the experience. And metaphorically, I want somebody with experience to help me walk through something like that, especially in the field of trauma. So that's a big deal, because some people never get over it, and they use it to identify them and their lives and really who they are as a person. You talk about showing up real and authentic. You've done some posts on that. You've done some really cool blogs on that. I've read them. But taking people through trauma and through a traumatic experience to turn that around and let it serve them in their future. Give me a few steps, because I ask my guest on Henry the Business Fighter, I always ask them for a few golden nuggets. So if I came in and sat down with you and paid you $10,000 to help work some stuff out for me and with me, and you say, Henry, the only way is through, give me the first 1, 2, 3 steps that you would implement. And then I want to talk about some of those steps.
Absolutely. And really what I find appealing to our ability to remember is sort of that first step, wherever that leads you. And so I really explore the first memory someone has in their childhood. And often that is a particularly painful time, unfortunately. That's what sticks out for them. And we explore more about what was happening then, what that little child needs. And that sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it really is targeting that inner wisdom. And
that's the foundation for everything else.
Yeah. And so when we really understand what is that part of you still saying, I'm not getting, or I'm still hurting because of this, it is the golden key. And so I do a lot of work helping people get comfortable going back to that time. And I say, look, I go deep into the abyss, and we're not going to stay there long. And I'm going to be right by your side every second. And I'm not afraid of what we find there, because I'm already seeing you on the other side of it. And so we give words to that, Henry, which becomes a powerful message that we use throughout my work with them. And I also ask them a really important question. I say, who taught you how to love? And that really gives them a sort of place for comfort, because they can identify with someone who gave them that message that I believe God wants all of us to hear, that even when we feel like we may be completely unlovable, someone is out there in our lives saying, this is what love looks like.
Yeah, let me back up just a half a second, because you just said something that I want to explore.
Okay.
You said when you go into the abyss with someone, you're there with them.
Yes.
And I had a coaching company, and I've trained about 20 psychologists, psychiatrists in that. And I've heard a lot of things about this. So I don't want to go deep, but I at least want to bring this point up. When you said you go into the abyss with someone and you hang out there, and you're not afraid of what you discover, because when you discover it and give it a name, it releases its hold on you, and it sets for a basis for everything else you do. So a lot of people listening out there, you may have went through a very traumatic experience, and you may have been ignoring something. You may have been putting it off. It could be in your subconscious, and you haven't even talked about it to anyone. Maybe you've shared it casually with a couple of friends, but what Amy's talking about is going deep and naming it. Amy, tell the audience how important it is to recognize, identify, and name something to cause it to lose its power.
Shame and trauma really, really grow in the dark. And so the longer we shine a light on it, it's like having some kind of a thief in your home. They're going to be able to take more and really understand more ways to violate you the longer they're in your home in the dark. But the minute we shine a light on them, even if it's a small flashlight, if it's a spotlight, whatever it is.
Or a laser from your gun.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
We take whatever weapon we need. Really, immediately, you realize just how weak that person is, because it just one point of penetration of that kind of light to disempower them, to exposed. even though it's been scary in all likelihood and looming large in your life, like I can't go there, it's just too terrifying. It's really not. It's really not.
And the longer you put something off and don't identify it or name it, the worse it gets. Whichever monster you feed more is going to grow bigger. So by putting it off and by not recognizing it, it gets bigger. It becomes more of a crutch, an excuse, which may give you comfort throughout your life for not doing what God made you to do. But you're saying, Amy, one of the first steps is, let's talk about it together. Let's call it what it is. Let's don't make it bigger than it is. And then let's get victory over it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. Love it. Okay. So then you went from there to identifying who first showed you love, because love casts out all fear. Love is gentle, is kind, is hopeful, is helpful. Love is kind of the answer. And that can sound kind of hippies talk as well, but it is. And they ask, what is God? Who is God? God is love. So tell me why it's important to figure out who first taught you about love, and then how you look at love, both for yourself and how you treat others. Why is that such an important next step?
Well, I think it's about establishing safety. Just like if we go into that abyss or that deep, dark place, we want to know where the lighthouse is. We want to know where our safety zone is, and that establishes that safe place for them. So as we're kind of coming out of the memory, if you will, really helping someone have that next hold to grab onto and to know where they can go for comfort, because often you'll feel really lost and kind of thrown out of any sort of normalcy in your life. And we want to go back to a place that's quickly and immediately comforting to them. And that's often what will happen when we recall memories of the person who taught them to love and how they did. So then we
wow.
And as a current teacher, all right, how can we do that now? How can we bring that kind of love, even if that person isn't in the room with us? How can we bring it here now? And it can be as simple as a hug, or just hearing it's going to be okay, or you're going to be okay. If they're totally alone, sometimes it's about hugging yourself. And that sounds a little bit silly. It can be so powerful, because we don't realize how much we're starved for that. And in my own life, I realized my worst enemy was right inside of me, that people external to me were angry or didn't accept who I was or couldn't love me for the real me, all of those sorts of things. It really was about me not loving me and me mistaking, my anger for God. And once I realized, hey, God isn't about anger. God is really about loving you and blessing you and just thinking the world of you if you never change one iota.
Let's go there just for a second. And I these minutes are passing way too fast. I love you. I love your heart. I love your spirit. I could just imagine somebody talking with you, how you calm them down, and you're just there to help and to, in whatever way you can. You're comforting to me, even doing this interview. So thank you for that first. You just said something there about how you were, and I'm paraphrasing, but you almost were blaming God. Like, is God with me? Is he not with me? Is he there to beat me over the head? Is he there to condemn me, to put me down? Because a lot of teachers, a lot of preachers, a lot of people just out on the street really think that, and they live their life trying to be God and judge other people when they have no right. But that's not even the framework of God. Talk to me about that a little bit. This is very powerful.
Yeah. It's misunderstanding when life has been tough, when we've had a lot of pain, when it hasn't gone the way we expected, when we have enough kicks, when we really are already feeling down on the floor, and it just feels like life keeps kicking us over and over again, whether in business or in our relationships. Right. It's easy to think that's outside of us. that somebody has it in. When am I going to get my break? Why does it have to be so hard? Why do these things keep happening to me? And we assume that that's about someone else thinking so little of us, that could happen. When really, I think in a lot of cases, when we dig inside, it's all about how we feel about who God created us to be, and I don't know about you, but I know in my own life, when I've done things I've not been proud of, or even when I've gone through trauma, it's still just sort of this shock that someone could hate me so much that they would want to hurt me that way. And you lash out, you live against your values, you explore life, and you rebel like you and I have both done. And then the way to healing is to really understand, look, inside of you is that innocent child that was born on the earth with a great and grand purpose, because I think everybody has that. That is truly who God is. The only thing that angers God is sin and our misassumption of who he is. So I don't know if that answers your really beautiful question, Henry, because it's a big one. I think there's so much that could be said about it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you know this, but if you look up the word sin in its original format, it means miss the mark. So to kind of create a visual, I'm a visual learner. If you could imagine a target with all of these circles around it, you've got the outside circle, this circle, then you've got the bullseye. Well, when the archers would shoot the arrow toward the target and they would miss, the guy would yell out, sin. I don't know if you ever knew that.
No, I didn't.
Do some studying on that, because it's really cool. So it's missing the mark. So the only way that we can miss the mark is to call God what he's not, which is sin, and is to say God is not 100% love and unconditional love. That means, like in today's society, we live in a microwave mentality. So if you do something for me, I'm going to do something for you. If you give me $5, I'm going to return in favor of whatever. You wash your car, I wash, whatever that exchange is.
Yeah.
But God being a God of unconditional love, meaning love without condition, that he can't love you any more or any less than he loves you today. And he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And his grace is not only sufficient, but it's ever enduring. If you start feeding that into your spirit, then you haven't sinned, you haven't missed the mark, you've identified with God of who he really is, and you have found him on the inside of yourself as well, because I believe he lives inside of each of us, waiting and wanting and wishing and hoping that we are our best selves, and we are the ones holding us back. We sometimes, and I won't go too far down this road, but I think we judge ourselves so much that it's really, we're making it so complicated when it is so very simple. I picture, my mom or my dad holding me as a baby. Like what would they ever want to do to hurt that little baby ever? When that baby's 5 or 50 or 70, you're never going to do anything to hurt your child. And I know there's some weird relationships or some parents that I was interviewing a guy the other day, his stepmom stabbed him with a knife. I mean, those are idiots. So I'm talking about in a normal relationship, you're going to always love your kids. I love my kids. I've loved them all their life, and I'll continue loving them the rest of their life. I would lay down my life for any one of them. I don't care if they came to me and called me anything they wanted. There's nothing they could do that would cause me to ever want to harm them. I always want the best for them. Yes, we learn lessons, all that, but I think if you even see yourself as being held in the arms of a loving father who's there unconditionally loving you, then you start releasing some of that pressure that, quite frankly, you've put on yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that is so beautifully said, Henry. So much of depth there.
Yeah, I know we could take these and do different podcasts on each of them. But
but that journey of self-forgiveness is such a relief for people, because for most of these people, especially if the trauma happened in the family, love and fear are just intertwined completely. And love and hurt. So that's why their adult relationships are often really hurtful, that's love happened for them, you know.
That's why you were saying it's so important to find out who loved you first and what's your definition, because if it's a contorted definition that's not right, you need to know it. And if it is the right definition, you need to embrace it and then apply that to the rest of your life.
Yeah, 100%.
You are so wonderful. I love your spirit. I love listening to you. Where can people find out more about you, Amy?
Well, first, thank you so much. This has just been a joy for me too. And I am on my website, which sounds a lot longer and more complicated than it is, amyvanslambrook.com. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, all the socials, and you can find my blogs out there, and my most current blogs are out on Facebook and Instagram. But I just would love to connect with people. Really.
So I want to make this very specific because I want a lot of people to reach out to you. You're wonderful. I know how to spell Amy. I know how to spell Van. But Slambrook, is it like it sounds? Is it Slambrooke?
Absolutely. There's no E, but it's just like slam the door and then a babbling brook. So
okay.
Van and then Slam Brook.
Amy Van Slambrook.
Yes.
Guys, look Amy up immediately. I always ask this of my viewers. If you can think of 10 people right now that would appreciate what you've just learned from Amy in this podcast, go ahead and share it to them. It'll take you 5 seconds to do online, but if you share what message she has to offer and share this podcast, I think it'll only return to you in kind 1,000 different ways that you're probably not even expecting. So that's the greatest thing you could do today. This has been Henry Penix, the business fighter, with Amy Van Slambrook. Look her up, get in touch with her. She'll bless you, bless your life. Amy, thank you so much for joining me, and we're definitely going to have to do this again.
Oh, I would love that, Henry. Thank you. This was such an honor to be able to have this time together.
Very good. Okay, so see you next time.
Thank you.